Unfortunately, a lot of people are going through redundancy these days. Okay. I personally have seen in 2008-9 during GFC, the global financial crisis. You
Yep.
definitely seen in 2000 also during dot-com bubble. So, but it's not that big, but still a lot of people are going through that. Okay. I have few questions on that. First of all, let's say someone got that redundancy letter and they probably have 1 month to go or just finished. Okay. What they should do from that point of time, mindset wise and task wise.
Well, I would almost go back to a stage before that, before they've actually got the redundancy letter. Generally speaking, people will get a feeling for what's happening in the workplace. They're going to, they may not necessarily expect a redundancy. I've been made redundant myself from a company that I didn't expect it. But generally, often enough, there have been, you'll get a feeling that it may happen. And if that's the case, then perhaps at that stage start to prepare what your plan is for the next stage of your life. And if you've got the letter, well, okay. Number one, I suppose it's what's the that comedy or The Meaning of Life, was it, or something that said don't panic. So don't panic. Number one, because there are always going to be opportunities. The next thing to do is to have a really long, hard process of thinking about what you really want to do. And if if you can, if it's possible, then what you should be looking at is how to look at the sort of things that you do well and you're passionate about. Because if you are, if you're passionate about something and you want to do it, then you'll probably do it very, very well.
Yeah.
So that kind of, I've got when I was coaching, I had a plan, a sort of a personal plan that people could go through, and this is a good time to do that because you're at a changing point in your life. I've done the same thing at a crisis point in my life. I sat down, had a whole weekend where I just wrote down pages and pages of things, possibilities of things I could do, wanted to do, and eventually came through with a clear plan of what I was going to do. And that made it so much easier from my perspective. So I think it's, and then the next thing I suppose is once you've got that clear plan, it's where you want to be, the destination. You've then got to say, well, how am I going to get there? What's the best way of achieving that particular role that I'm looking for? And think about lots of different things that you can do, of people that you have contact with. One thing I've found very, very useful is if, for example, you've decided I want to be a project manager, I'm just picking that as an example, then who do you know who is a very, very good project manager? It could be somebody that you know personally, it could be somebody that you know through somebody else. But if you can get in front of that person and sit down with him or her and say, okay, what do you do that makes you such a good project manager? And learn from it. So most people will be happy to talk about themselves. So you get in front of that project manager, he or she, they're going to say, well, this is what I did, this is what I did, and I'll be happy to do that. But you can pick up things from them that will help you in terms of getting that particular role that you're looking for. So learning from experts or people who are very good at what they do is a good way of progressing your goals, if you like, in terms of what you're trying to achieve. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes. Now, as I said, like I have few questions on that. So next thing is people started doing is they go to a lot of websites, the job searching sites, and they started applying. And after maybe 2 weeks or 1 month, depend on the tolerance level, they become frustrated and say we are kept applying and nothing is happening.
Yep.
Any tips on that?
Yes. My son very said when he got made redundant, and he said, "Well, when I'm looking for a job, Dad, what I have to do, I have to make it a project." So it's a number of things, number of people that you've got to be talking to. You can sort of give yourself goals as to I need to talk to 3 people, 4 people today, and each day for the next whenever it is. But just set yourself some goals as to what you're trying to achieve. And the second thing is, yeah, those sort of ads that come up in the websites and so on, they can be frustrating because what's happening is that when you're applying for that role, 100 other people are doing it too. Um, Perhaps more. 200 people might be applying for the same job, and
And sometimes same job is being advertised by 5, 6, or 10 vendors.
yes, yes. Um, so your chances of success are not great based on those numbers. So therefore, what you've got to do is try and give yourself an advantage. And
Mm-hmm.
the advantage I think you can get is by being a bit more proactive. Instead of just saying, okay, I want this job, I'm going to apply for it formally, whatever, you can often get on the phone and talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always easy. I'm not saying you can, but when you can, get on the phone and say, what's this all about? I want to make sure that I'm the right fit for the role, and that's for my purposes and your purposes. And that way, it does 2 things. Number one, you give yourself visibility with that potential employer. And the second thing you're doing is you're getting to understand a bit more about the role and the sort of things that they will be looking for at the interview stage.
Right.
They may be asking questions, the employer may be asking questions that you can say, okay, I understand a bit about what you're doing. And this is you've got time to sort of think about what your response will be to that. Sorry, you were going to say something, Gautam?
Okay. So on that, uh, what happens is these days, in let's say 10 years back, always there used to be a contact name and a number
Yes.
with a job advertisement. Okay.
Yes.
So it's easy to just pick the phone up and have a chat.
Mm.
Now, in these days, what I noticed also, many times there are no contacts, and many times a contact number is given, but it's actually just a reception of the office.
Mhm.
So when like someone is calling there, normally the answer is, okay, someone will get back to you. And as usual, most of the time, no one actually call you back,
Mm.
like rejection letter or rejection call or whatever.
Yeah.
So how people can bypass that?
Yeah. uh, it's not an easy one. The
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that you can do is if there isn't a telephone number, there's going to be a response somewhere that says, to respond, to apply for the job, you have to fill in this form, whatever it might be. Um, Sometimes you can actually just send an email to say, uh, I'd like to apply for this role, but I just want to get a bit more background. Is there somebody I can talk to? Um, can you give me the contact? So again, it's sort of being a bit bold. You may not necessarily get what you want, but the bolder you are, the more recognized they'll be when it comes to interviews. So, and then another option is to, okay, I'm applying to, and I'll pick an example, IBM. Um, and IBM have got this role, and who do I know in IBM? Do I
Yeah.
have a contact there? Do I have somebody on the inside I can ring and say, hey, John, what about this particular role. I'm thinking of applying for it. Do you know anything about it? Now, they may not necessarily know, but they can probably do a little bit of digging on your behalf and get a bit of background. And they could even possibly give you the name of somebody that you can talk to. So it's being a bit devious, but hey, any point of advantage you can get, just go for it.
Right.
So that's one thing. The other thing is to use your network. And I know that we've often, you and I, Gautam, have often talked about it, but there's a network of people that you know who will be possibly able to help you, because just ringing them up and saying, hey, I'm looking for some work. Do you know of anywhere that there's happening in your firm, or do you know anybody? And just spreading the word, just talking to people in your network, because often enough, the jobs that are not advertised are the ones that you stand the best chance of getting. Because if you can be ahead of the game, hey, they haven't applied, there's no formal application for this job. I know they're going to be looking for somebody. And I can give an example of that, where a friend of mine was looking for a role. I knew the person who was going to be advertising the role, and way ahead of time, before it ever got advertised, I put the two of them in touch with each other, and that was successful. They went on to get the role, but that was before the official process had already started.